Good evening, Cochise County. How is everyone doing? I want to welcome everyone back to Vista Votes as we meet with candidate Sanda Clark, who's running for LD19. Once again, Vista Votes is our series, making sure that we are a educated electorate, that everyone has an opportunity to meet the candidates that are running for state and local office, who's going to be representing us all throughout the country, right? So once again, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we are a nonpartisan platform, that we have reached out to candidates on both sides of the aisles, and we are interviewing the individuals who have responded to us. So if you're not seeing the candidates that you guys were looking forward to see, please reach out to them in their office and tell them to get back to us. There's still time for us to interview the candidates. However, I believe today was the last day to be able to register to vote for this upcoming election. So I hope everybody got those your registrations in. But without further ado, welcome Ms. Sanda Clark.
Good evening. How are you? Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody who is tuning in to get to know me better. I'm Sanda Clark. I'm running for a seat in the House of Representatives in LD19, a newly created LD that encompasses Santa Cruz County, Cochise County, Pima County, Greenlee, and Graham County. So it is a very large district, and I'm happy to say that I've been in every single one. In every single county, I've met a lot of wonderful people, and probably that's the greatest blessing of this endeavor of mine. So, as you can tell by my accent, I wasn't born in this country. I was born in Bucharest, Romania, and from Bucharest, my family emigrated to Israel, and I was there through the 6 Day War. And then I was a musician since age 6, and I found a mentor teacher who taught at the University of Texas. And in 1968, I came to Austin to study with him. I spent all of my life since age 6 till last April 1, playing concerts and teaching. I am a classical pianist. I've played throughout the world, and I played from Carnegie Hall to the Library of Congress and the Chocolate Church in Maine and Machias, Maine, and everywhere else, big and small halls. I met my husband at the University of Texas. He's a cellist who grew up in Tucson, and we spend our life journey together making music. Cello, piano, and sometimes with violin or viola or actors.
Okay.
So I had a very interesting career, and I retired April 1 of this year after, I would say, close to 70 years making music. But music will always be part of my life because that's who I am. It's the essence of my soul. So I never thought I'd run for office, never had those aspirations. My goal in life was to have many dogs and play with them and just have fun. But this is a very...
Well, hold on. Let me stop you there before we get into that, because that's gonna you're stealing some of my questions here. So
Okay.
you told us a lot about yourself, just some of your history, how you came to the States. You met your husband and moved to Arizona after you met your husband because he's from Tucson.
Right.
You said you recently retired and decided to get into politics. So tell us what motivated you, right, to run for office in
I didn't decide to enter politics at all. I always refer to myself as the accidental candidate. What happened is that with this new district, which was created to remain a red district, is the gerrymandering that took part of the last redistricting, there was no Democrat interested to run for any office.
Wow.
So to me, the cornerstone of our democracy is that we have the freedom to choose and that we have more than one voice represented to come up with the best decisions possible. And so the idea of growing up under communist regime and coming to the free world and having nobody interested to run for office just because it is not a run that's ensured to win, to give you a win, was just incredible to contemplate. So I said, I have to run because a democracy is not based on one party to have control over you, but it is designed to really have diverse ideas, diverse constituency represented, and have a discussion to allow for compromise, for new ideas, for opening the minds. And so I decided that for me, I had no choice but run.
Wow.
Especially, so that's why I decided to run because nobody else was running. I didn't decide to switch from music to politics. Not at all. I just decided to make sure that a democratic voice is heard, and especially in Cochise County, there was no democratic representation for the last 20 years, and I think that's crazy.
Well, like you said, this is a very interesting time in politics, right? Because we're seeing the polarization of both parties, right? Extreme individuals to the right, extreme individuals to the left. And it has everyone really questioning what are individuals stances on particular issues, where they're at, because really a lot of individuals don't see themselves either in a lot of the parties, right? And as we're getting questions from the chat, one of those questions is, what do you think about the restrictive new voter laws in Arizona? What are your perspectives of that on that?
Well, I'm horrified, to be quite honest with you, about a lot of things that are happening in our recent history. To me, if you are a free world, you have to want more participation, easier participation, available to everybody, because that's what democracy is all about, the freedom to choose. You take this away and you are living under communism rule or authoritarianism. Never thought possible that to ever use these words in America. I mean, where I come from, America is the beacon of the free world. It's a place that everybody wishes to live, to arrive, because of all the limitless possibilities, the freedom to express yourself, the freedom to live without being afraid of who is looking at you, of who your neighbors are. There was no, freedom. Freedom is just such a commodity that is indescribable, really, to somebody unless they've tasted the other side of.
And that's a good point. I think a lot of us here, we take for granted these liberties that we have, right? And an individual such as yourself who comes from a country where you don't have these options, you can't fathom the lack of participation, even just from natural born citizens. But
Absolutely.
let's dig a little bit deeper, right? Because like you said, it's all about that choice. It's about securing and protecting democracy. And as we looked at more polarizing issues, individuals want to know, how are you going to represent us as an LD19 representative when it pertains to, issues it pertains to like funding school, when it pertains to abortion rights, when it pertains to voter suppression and those things. What is your plan, or how do you plan to represent LD19 in that battle on the state level?
Okay, so let me tell you, first of all, I'm running as a clean candidate, so I am not beholden to anybody but the voters and the residents of my district. I do not take PAC money. I do not have strange dark money. You don't know who gave the money. I don't have the big realtor people supporting me, or my run is strictly for the people, by the people. And so how I intend to address this is, first of all, hold town halls so I can get input from my residents of what's most ardently important to them that they need immediate relief with, and fight for it. I don't know I don't know how many town halls Gil Griffin, for example, has held over the years that she's been 20 years in office. So I don't know how regularly she attends to and meet with her constituents, because when you look at who contributes to her campaigns, it's mainly lobbyists and the big conglomerates and PACs. Very few single individuals who are not lobbyists are contributors to her campaign. So I guess she probably feels, rightfully so, that she's one of the best investments and she needs to provide for them a good return on their investment. I look at my position, if I'm lucky enough to get your vote, as your representative, truly as a public servant, trying to make all our lives better. I'm a devoted person for public funding for the schools, public education. And one of the things that really, I've been thinking about it so much lately, because we have had a big surplus now, and a lot of it was supposed to go to education. But you know what happens? When you say this is budget for education, it's all in one lump sum. And most of the money ends up not going to public schools. It goes to parochial schools, it goes to private schools. Actually, already a large majority of the people who are applying for these universal vouchers are kids who already have been in private schools, but now they can get paid for going to private school. And some of those people are rich people in Scottsdale who go to bases. They don't need to get the $7,000 a year contribution.
So you plan on, in a sense, making sure that you're talking to individuals, having town halls to hear that voice, and really,
yes.
And correct me if I'm hearing this right, that you're saying that you're going to, because you're not taking PAC money and large donors, you're going to be more able to vote for the people versus in the interest of larger PACs and
contributors, your contributors who keep you in office. Absolutely. I mean, I have my tagline, we all have taglines, at least my campaign is of the people, for the people, by the people. I truly believe in it. And I wish that running clean, everybody had to do so. I cannot tell you what a pain in the derriere that is to run clean, because you've got to do, everything has to be accounted for. And if you're $5 over, you have to return it. And it's really so it's a pain, but at the same time, there's incredible control of how you spend your money. It's completely open and transparent. And then you really are on a level playing field, I mean, some people spend on small races like this one hundreds of thousands of dollars. My total amount of dollars that were spent between the primary and the general is $45,000 that you get from the government, and you have to account for every single penny. For example, you are allowed to for all the travel. It's a huge district. You are paid per mileage, but you are not allowed to collect for the gas. So, and we all talk about how expensive gas is and so on and so forth. So I really believe in running clean. I think it's a great exercise in being frugal, in being accountable, in being transparent. And I wish that this was the law of the land, that everybody had to run clean for no matter what the office.
So let's talk a little bit more about that, because you spoke about being frugal, being conservative. And Cochise County tends to lean more conservative, right? And so one of the things, and I was watching some different interviews in this last couple of weeks just because it's been hyping up, right? So how do you plan on still being frugal and making sure that Arizona isn't going into a deficit while making the quote unquote right investments in education or infrastructure or other things? What is your stance on that?
My stand on it is that, first of all, I believe that when you have budget for education, it should be divided. So much for public education, so much for special education, so much for technical college, so much for private schools, so much, so each division that is part of education gets a certain budget. We know what the budget is. It cannot be messed with. And then you have to be accountable on how that's spent. One of the things that if I'm lucky enough to get elected, I would really be strong supporter of increasing the salaries for teachers. Our teachers are 49th in the country. How do you expect a person to make a living? And in top of it, they have to buy their own supplies and so on and so forth. We don't value teachers for the incredible resource that they provide for our well-being as a society. They spark children's imagination, curiosity, and they are huge influences on a child's future. My husband became a cellist because a person came to his to the Duffy Elementary School in Tucson when he was a young kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old, and he discovered the cello for the first time, and that changed his life. So, I really think that we've got some wrong priorities here, and that needs to change. I also think that we need to put a huge emphasis on trade schools. We don't have anybody that can repair anything anymore. Nobody that is, we sort of look down at somebody who goes for a profession as opposed to getting a PhD. And I think that's erroneous, because I have so many students that I taught at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut for over 20 years. And I cannot tell you how many kids who have studied philosophy and religion and all of that end up being waiter and waitresses in New York City, trying to become actors and actresses. Just getting a degree, everybody thinks that getting a degree, it's the recipe for success. Not necessarily. I think we need to look at professions as equally important, and kind of request a little bit of accountability from higher education institutions, that they don't just provide a student at the end of 4 years with their certificate, but they guarantee that they would be able to be employable as well. And that's not always the case. So I think we need to look at education in some new ways and prioritize what's important. It's important to make high-class education for everybody, not just people who live in Scottsdale or Phoenix, or the people who are very in a high income bracket. They can send their kids to very expensive schools and so on. I think that a high-quality education should not be contingent upon which zip code you live in. I also think that we need to have massive investments in computers and high-speed internet that's equally available and high quality and reliability, without having to spend $130 a month to Cox to get your internet access.
Right. Well, and that's one of the biggest challenges in all of our communities, right? Especially in LD19, because so much of it is rural. We just do not have the infrastructure and a lot of the things in place to support those. And so when we begin to discuss economic development or anything else, we have to really look at the infrastructure that's in place and what we're able to even do. And there's a lot of issues that we have to overcome, right? Water, so on and so forth, which is a major part of your platform. So let's go ahead and take a look at your website, and let's talk about some of those main issues of your platform. Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring your website up.
Okay.
All right, everyone. And you can go to clarkforaz.com and follow along if you would like, and read up more about Miss Clark and the main issues of her campaign. So water, tell us your stance on water and how you plan to fight for LD19, but Cochise County when it pertains to water.
Right. So water is it's essential to life, right? We cannot live without water. What I really think it's important for us to pay attention to is usage of water. How is it used? How is it paid for? How is it accountable? We have got, in Arizona, I've got such beautiful resources, and we are just practically giving them away, because you've got big mega farms that don't have to, they can have use of water as much as they want, and they don't have to pay for it. I mean, is that nuts or what? I think that's crazy, right? Not only this, but they can drill much deeper wells than normal people who have got limited budgets could possibly ever imagine to. And their wells can be close to somebody else's well and draw from the same aquifer. And all of a sudden, a person who's got only a 300 deep well, and somebody who some of those big farms, who they are, they can go to 1,000 feet, and their standards even lower to 2,500 feet. Can somebody private sustain the same investment? I don't think so. So I'm a big proponent of the AMAs. And I know this is a controversial issue. And I know that I've been to the Wilcox event that they were trying to talk about what an AMA is and what it is not. And there are some people who ask completely, I don't know if they were in purpose asking bogus questions, or they were really uneducated about it. They wanted to know. I remember one person asking, would an AMA increase our amount of water that we have? Well, that's crazy, right? Because absolutely they cannot increase the water. That's not the purpose of an AMA.
Just for the audience sake, what is the AMA?
An active management area.
Okay.
We have got several in Arizona, but Cochise County was left out of it. So what is an active management area? An active management area is in a way, it's a stringent measure of last resort because we are running out of water. And what it attempts to do, it attempts to bring to the table scientists, business people, residents, and together design a plan by which equitably we know how much each person takes out and how much they put back in. So it is a measure that will enable us to keep track of what's happening to our water usage, who uses how much, and make them accountable. You see, Gail Griffin is basically the biggest impediment to our having usage that is equitable. Because she's involved with all the riverside people and the miners and the developers, and she is against metering. Now, why would that person be against metering? She believes that people should be willing to be equitable by themselves. To me, her recipe or her ideas about it, it's like you have 5 kids and they want to watch TV and say, okay, you can watch TV, but you have to be good. You only watch 1 hour and then you go do your homework and nobody is watching. How many kids do you think are going to only watch 1 hour? I mean, let's be honest here. So we need to make people become equitable and decent, not just for their profits, but also for their neighbors. And in general, to me, that's a little bit what's happening in our society today. We are only preoccupied with our own best interests, our own bottom line, our own profit making, and we are not so preoccupied with how does this affect our neighbors.
Okay, so on the state level, you're going to be looking to kind of have some stricter things and implement monitoring and ways that we can first track how much water is being used, who's using it, and then ways that we can look to protect those water sources.
Right.
What I'm hearing.
And it goes the same for the mining industry and goes the same for the builders. I mean, people have to be able to hold on to their properties and not run out of water, because then, your property becomes useless. And this is a very serious situation. And it's unacceptable to me that we can just pretend that, oh yeah, it's like people that tells you, oh, this is not a floodplain, you don't need to buy flood insurance, don't worry. Then you've got a big monsoon now, like what happened in Duncan, right? And people who have been there for 130 years, nothing ever flooded, and their house flooded and almost died in the house. So, we need to start taking care of one another more than we have been. And we need to have representation. I mean, when you go to represent your constituents, you are a public servant, and public is the key word here. You are supposed to serve your public. You're not supposed to serve your investors.
Okay, so we talked about water rights. We kind of hit education a little bit earlier. Some of the other main aspects of your campaign is reproductive rights and voting rights. Which one would you like to address next?
You pick. I'm equally committed about all of them.
Okay, so let's talk about reproductive rights. That's one of the top issues in this election cycle. What's your stance on that, and what do you plan on doing on the state level?
Well, I remember that when the Republican Party was the grand old party, not what it's becoming now, everybody used to clamor and say, get the government off my back. And I am all for it. You see, but I wanted to be consistent. Get the government off my back, get the government out of my bedroom, and definitely out of my uterus. I don't think that it's up to the government to tell us when to grow our family, who to sleep with or not sleep with, and what happens after the baby is born. There is no incentive to support with school, with family leave, with supporting people who are in the poverty level. They don't want to support food stamps or, give medical care for those kids that are born. What if a kid is born with, a lot of kids are born with disabilities. Who is taking care of this? There is absolutely no protection from our current legislators for this part of a child's life. They are only preoccupied to let them be born. What happens afterward, it's unimportant to them. And there they call themselves pro-life. I am pro-life, pro great quality of life, and I am for the respecting what is in our constitution, the right of privacy. This to me is a matter of privacy. It is up to the woman and her doctor and maybe her partner with whom she's produced an embryo in the uterus. It also, they're trying to say this is a very religious issue, Christian, values, family values. They emphasize this a great deal. But, it's inconsistent because family values is also when a mother has a mother of her own that's still alive and is very sick. They're unwilling to pay for family sick leave. You see, that's not part of something that they want to support. If you're for pro-life, you have to be for pro-life from when you are born till you die. It's not a temporary kind of I hate those, slogans. I would like to talk instead of take those slogans and put them become policy. So that would be my mission, to choose good slogans that can be turned into good policies that would improve the quality of the people that live in this area. One other thing in terms of quality of life, I know that in Cochise County, I know in Sierra Vista, for example, the wait list for a low-income housing is 3 years. That to me is incredible. It is absolutely mind-boggling that a person that is in a low-income situation has to wait for 3 years to get an apartment. So, we have got so much work to do here. If you really put the people first, they say, make America great. Well, let's make Cochise County great. Let's make Arizona great by putting Arizona first. Sure. I am anti-selling, Fundamente more land for nothing, leasing them for, give it away, all our resources, and they say, oh, we create jobs. Well, if you look at how much jobs, the big pharmas have created, they, by their own account, they say that they make like a million something jobs. And when you take the numbers and you divide by how many jobs have created and how much they spend, you are looking at about 10,000 plus a year per person. That's their income. Do you think that's a nice wage? It's a nice way to live in today's. What do you spend for? Rents are impossible. You can't rent a place because it's so expensive. Healthcare is out of sight, and what really upsets me is when they try to say that, oh, the Democrats are socialists, are communists. Well, what is Medicare? What is Social Security and Medicare? What is Medicare? Do you know anybody that's on Medicare? I'm on Medicare. It keeps me alive. It's a socialist program. What's so wrong with it? Who is willing to give it up?
So, you're one of the only candidates that I've interviewed so far that has actually gone through the immigration process, right? And we being a border community, what's your stance on immigration? I see on your website you talk about having a humane and comprehensive immigration policy and providing a better path for citizenship. So, tell us a little bit about what your personal experience was like becoming a citizen, and then how you would translate that over on the state level.
Well, the point of it is that immigration policies are really a federal program, and unfortunately, we keep electing representatives who are gutless to take a hard vote. They don't want to take the hard vote because they are more concerned with their re-election than taking a hard vote. So every time we kick the can down the road, it's like extension on the budget. That's not a way to live. You have to take a courageous vote. I think we have got in this country, the DACA kids are very important to me, and I'm all for them being allowed to have in-state tuition because they've lived here all their lives. That's the only country they know, and it's time to give them an opportunity to citizenship. I remember 10 years ago or so, when Obama was still in office, and I remember Luis Gutierrez, who is a representative from Illinois, came to Tucson, and he said he encouraged everybody to come out of the shadows and apply, pay their $400 and some and apply to get online to become citizens. 10 years later, nothing has happened. To me, that's reprehensible. Reprehensible. So I came to this country. I didn't really intend to stay because I just came to become a fine musician. But then I met Harry and we got married. But, to become an American citizen, you have to give up all other connections to your other countries that you have been from before. Having gone through the 6-day war in Israel, for me, it was a very difficult thing to do, to say I no longer want to have any allegiance to Israel. So I waited for, for, I think, 7 years after I came to this country before I applied for a green card because everybody thinks you marry an American, you become American. That's not so. It's not so simple. And I think becoming an American citizen for my father was the greatest accomplishment of his life, that he had an American daughter. And I feel the same way. For me, the greatest accomplishment is that I'm living in a country where I can run for office even when I'm retired. There's not too many places in the world that one can do that. I cherish this country, and it is out of an enormous amount of gratitude to this country that I'm running for office to improve the quality of lives of the people that live in this beautiful state of Arizona. I don't have any ambition to become president. I don't want, I will never run unclean, so I'm not looking for donors or PACs, I'm looking to improve the quality of life in this great state that's been so great to me and I love so much. So in terms of what is humane to me is to understand that when people come here and they're asking for asylum, first of all, not to treat them as people who are criminals. To put the labels that they are all drug dealers and prostitutes and people with terrible records, it's just offensive, really. It's offensive. Because one of these days, if we are not careful, in this great state of Arizona and Graham and Greenlee County, if we don't take care of this planet, it will become uninhabitable and we might become migrants for climate change because it will be not possible to live here anymore. We really have to really kind of look with a little bit more humility and understand. I can tell you, even living Romania as a child was very difficult for me. You go to a place that's unknown. You don't speak the language. You know no one. It's a completely different mentality on everything. It is a difficult thing to do. And some of these people are fleeing for their lives. Look what's happening in Russia. People are fleeing not to go to war against a country that's done nothing to them, just because they've got a crazy dictator who wants to return Russia to the great old, Soviet Union. People are fleeing, literally fleeing with their clothes on their back for safety. So when somebody comes to this country, I realize that we have lots of them and it's very difficult to accommodate, that it's really difficult. But we are a nation of incredible ingenuity, incredible resources, wisdom, and really we've got so many people that are immigrants, have contributed so much to this country, that for us to be so heartless as to rip babies out of mothers' arms, or let them sleep on aluminum foil. To me, it's just humiliating to say that America doesn't have more in its heart than to treat people in distress in that way. So
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about, humane. We've got to figure out how we can do that. Can you imagine what the Trump hotels would be without migrants who are working, actually cleaning his dirty stuff? Who is going to do that? Ivanka, I don't think is going to start cleaning rooms in the next Trump hotel. Really. Let's be honest here and be thankful for what they contribute to our lives.
Okay. So, we looked at the main issues of your platform. You've let us know what you plan on doing and going and fighting for LD19, if elected. So, what you've been out, you've been in Eastern Santa Cruz, part of Pima, you've been to Greenlee, and I believe Graham, because I think it's part of the district.
Right? I was just in Safford for the parade this
It's
past
great.
weekend.
So, what has been your most memorable experience so far while being out on the campaign trail?
Oh, the most memorable part, besides discovering all kinds of areas of Arizona that I've never seen before,
Mhm.
is the incredible people that live here. I've met so many people that I would have never known otherwise. That I really have become like friends, family. When I go to Sierra Vista now, for me, it's like second home because I know now so many people and they've opened their arms and their hearts and they're working so hard to get this election be successful. So I would have to say that for me, the greatest gift really has been discovering so many new friendships and really discovering some of the incredible talent that is in this area. I remember going to the Juneteenth event in Sierra Vista and seeing all those little kids do incredible stuff. I mean, that's to me inspires me because they are our future, and I would fight like crazy to make sure they have all the things that they need, that they have a good internet highway that's reliable, that is inexpensive, that they have their all the technical stuff that is available that could improve their ability to achieve and accomplish. I would want to make sure that we get some great health facilities in the rural part. See, rural part of Arizona, it's funny. I being in Duncan and seeing this family was a woman and her 90-year-old mother who had 4 little dogs. They barely escaped with their life because nobody came to tell them to evacuate, and the water was rising in their home. And at the 3 o'clock in the morning, she grabbed the 90-year-old mother and put her 4 little dogs in the truck and ran for life. To me, I met with the city manager. They have a new city manager there, and I said, how can you help them? Says, well, there is nothing we can do for them. To me, that's unacceptable. Says, well, we are only 800 people. So what does that mean? You only help people when you've got big metropoles? I mean, this is foreign to me. Maybe because, when I came to this country, I came as a foreign student and everything. Americans love foreign. Boy, do they love foreign, because Harry was born in America and he got no help because he was American. I came as a foreign student. I got scholarship. I got immediately somebody who helped me to get an apartment so I could live in there. And then I got a job at the university. So by the time it was in a few months, I was making like $300, $320 a month. And Harry had to live on $90 a month because that's all his parents could offer him. And that was inclusive for rents, books, strings, whatever he needed. It was $90, and that was it. So I always ended up, if we want to go to a movie, I would always pay for the both of us. I just had more money. Do you see what I'm talking about? I mean, it's
No, I agree with you in that regard. I'm a huge advocate of that, and just the work that I do is making sure that we're taking care of, individuals in our community. We have to look for ways that we can connect people to resources,
right.
and really support people as much as we can. So okay. And lastly, before we close out, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to do your closing statement. But what you've talked about your most memorable thing, but what has been the most challenging thing that you're seeing throughout the LD19 area? We talked about water, we talked about education, we talked about all those things, which I think everybody kind of highlights. But for you personally, what has been the
For me personally, I will tell you. I will tell you. I just came out of the board of supervisors meeting today regarding that whole idea about counting ballots by hand. And I was amazed of how people, they make up their minds and they're unmovable. That it's not we used to be an open society where we could discuss things, but not anymore. I mean, to me, that is kind of a scary thing, because these are, what I don't understand is how nice, trusting people, they respond to a call, for example, like the money for the wall, right? I mean, so they donated the money to the wall, and then Steve Bannon took the money and bought himself a yacht, and he was found. That's why he's going to jail for, and nobody minds it. Explain to me how somebody doesn't mind it. I gave you money for a certain purpose, and then nothing happened. That bothers me. I don't understand how out of a society of intelligent people have become so many people are now in this cult, and they just go to revivals. When they go to those rallies, they're not really rallies. They don't talk about anything except relitigating the last election. They refuse to understand there have been 60 trials that proved there was nothing stolen, there was no election that was fraudulent, there was no hanky-panky done, and that, I mean, they had the ninjas come and do $2.5 million to look for bamboo in ballots. Can you imagine? I mean, just listen to it. Bamboo implanted in paper ballots. I mean, and look with those. I mean, it's ridiculous, and that we are not smart enough to see through that and reduce ourselves to kind of following like sheep, without using any intelligence. And I wasn't always a Democrat, I have to confess. Reagan was a big influence for me because he stood up to the Russians. To this day, I don't trust, and he's been proven right. He said he didn't want to talk to Putin, and everybody said, "Oh, he's an isolationist." He had the right number, because look what's happening now, what he's doing. So, I mourn the loss of the grand old party. I don't believe in just having one party. I came from a world that only had one party, and that's not the way to go. I wish we went back and we revived a Republican Party that's normal. I have to say, I admire Lynn Cheney so much. Liz Cheney to me, is the ultimate consummate example of what a true patriot is all about, putting country first. We've got a great country. Really, no one person is worth sacrificing the greatness of our nation for one person, and I don't care who that person is. Our country is worth much more than that. And I really think, for me, the most important thing is to protect our democracy. We don't have our democracy, there is nothing else that matters, really, nothing. Trust me.
Right. Well, look, I'm going to give you a 2-minute close here. Talk to the individuals throughout Cochise County. Let them know who you are, where they can see you next, and all that good stuff.
Okay, well, all right. So I'm going to be next at a house party, actually, in Sonoita, I believe, on the 13th, going over the propositions with different interested parties. And then I'm going to be, to tell you this, I don't remember. It's late for me that day. As I told you, I get up at 3 a.m. But what I would like people to know about me is that I'm not crazy. I'm crazy about this country. I'm crazy about protecting our freedoms. And to me, there is nothing more sacred than protecting our democracy that the world revered. And I'm unwilling to sacrificing. I really am. I hope that people are going to be smart enough to realize that our country, it's worth voting for its survival of our democracy. The world has always looked up to America as the beacon of freedom, and I want it to remain that way. I'm a devoted American, patriotic person, grateful for what this country has done for me. And I just wish to preserve it. I want to keep that republic for as long as possible, for generations to come. So I'm hoping you're going to give me your vote, because I'm totally dedicated to make our life better. I have no other ulterior motives of why I'm running. I'm running for all of us. I'm running for equality. I'm running for freedom of choice, freedom of religion, freedom of who to love, freedom of what books to read, freedom to what school to attend. And choice is very important to me. It's paramount. And the freedom to be able to access the ballot is such a great privilege. Please vote. I don't care who you vote for. If you vote for me, I will be grateful, but vote. This is a privilege that it's not available throughout the world.
All
Enjoy.
right. Well, thank you so much. And everybody, once again, you can visit clark4az.com to learn more about Sanda Clark, her stances on the issues, and to contact her if you have any questions that you want to ask that we didn't answer here tonight. We thank all of you who have hung in there with us for this interview. We look forward to seeing you guys this week and next week as we bring this Vista Vote series to an end with candidate Martin Quisada, who's going to be running for state
Treasurer.
treasurer. So we're really excited about that. Everyone have a great night. Ms. Clark, thank you so much for coming and
Thank you so much. You made it such a pleasurable experience. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Everyone have a great night.